All right, we're live. Thank you guys so much for being here already. I see a few people in the chat. So this is my very first live, so I'm trying to figure things out. And Shane is in the background, so he's moderating. And then I have Jeni coming on soon from Connect the Dots with Jeni. She's on Instagram and TikTok, so she's really been digging into the Diddy case and MPD, Pelletier, the police commissioners. So she has some really good information to share. And I'm going to link, I'm going to show the live stream outside of the courthouse. I'll put that out on in a minute. So today is the first day of the trial. This week is just jury selection. So I have some updates. There's no cameras in the courtroom. It's a rule by the feds as well as New York State. So we're just going to go off sketches, and they have released some sketches of court. All right. Thank you, Trinity, too, for being here. PDW, Alchemy by Angela. Welcome to my very first live. And anyone else want to say hello? All right. Oh, the Karen Reed trial. Yeah, I know a lot of people have been following that. I don't know much about it. Francis Capello, welcome. Natasha Van Morik from Holland, thank you so much for joining. Corey, Puffy has 8 lawyers but needs at least 10. Yeah, I did hear he's got 8 attorneys working for him in court, which I think is a little overkill because that's a lot of people to coordinate. But I think he's just so desperate. He wants as many people that he can get. All right, Kim Ka'anana, thank you from Maui. William Gobble, Lei Puanani, welcome. Drummer Against Tick from Portugal. Wow, thank you. William Crewman, Igor Silva from Portugal again. William, and yeah, if anyone else wants to say hi. Heavy News by Regina from Germany. Wow, we've got a lot of people from Europe. Blue from British Columbia, Canada. Welcome. I hope I didn't miss anyone. So thank you guys so much for being here. Trina from Maine. I don't know if this is a creator thing, but I always get this like fear that no one's going to show up. And yeah, that would be really tragic. Behold the Sky from Oregon. Welcome, Douglas. Igor Silva, I think I said that already. Miss Blanche from Arkansas, welcome. And PDW is in Idaho. Oh, Natasha is from Netherlands. William Crewman from Long Island, New York, welcome. Maui Sun from California. And Trina, oh, we're here. I'm so glad to be. Thank you so much. Monica Lynn from San Diego. Derek Geister from Wisconsin. And Jay Pascua from my neck of the woods, so I'm guessing Southern California. So that's awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here live. DS from Ohio. Anyone else? William Ross Reinhardt from Porterville, California. And so yeah, we got 74 people here live. So that's awesome. Jennifer Kolinick, originally from Long Island, from Sayville, Long Island. All right, and just wait a couple more minutes before I put the live stream on. Silver Ghost from Volcano, Hawaii. And he says, Kilauea is erupting now. Yeah, I heard. I've seen some of those clips. And Igor, me again. Okay. So let me put the live stream on. Your work on reporting the fire is very important. Please keep going. Oh, I definitely will. Jennifer Kalinick from Sebastian, Florida. All right, I'm going to put the live stream on. Oh, I have to pull it up first. I'm going to use the Associated Press for their live stream. Or maybe Fox New York. All right, let's try Fox New York. And then let me look for the I don't like this one. I'm just pulling up the live. All right, so that is outside of the courthouse. I've been watching it from pretty early this morning, and so far, no one has come out to make a comment or anything. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. They might just not comment. It's also raining in New York, so that might be a problem with the microphone and the equipment. Okay, Carol Thiessen from Michigan, welcome. Inquisitive. Okay, we got 8 of you guys on. All right, I'll just sum up a little bit of what we're looking at. Francis Capello, thank you for the super chat. They want Pelletier to be exposed for his corruption in Maui and Las Vegas. He may bring the whole house of cards, bring down the whole house of cards. He might. So this is just jury selection this week. So I have some information that's been leaking out of the courthouse. So they did name some high-profile people in the questioning. So I'll give you guys some of that information. So Michael B. Jordan, not the basketball player, but the actor, has been come up in the questioning. So they're questioning the jurors, asking them if they know about these people and what their opinions are of these people. Michael Myers, I don't know who that is. Also, Kanye West has been mentioned. The judge has asked some of the jurors what their views about Kanye West are. Kid Cudi, who is the artist whose car was blown up, allegedly by Diddy. So it was rumored that Cassie and Kid Cudi were having a relationship, and Diddy had his car blown up. Also, Kim Porter, who is Diddy's longtime on-again, off-again girlfriend, who he has 4 children with, is going to be discussed. I'll Be Sure is also going to be discussed. He is Kim Porter's, I don't know if they're married, but he is the father of Kim Porter's first son. I think that is It might be Christian or Quincy, I forgot. So Kim has 4 kids. The first one is with Al B. Sure, who's a rapper. He also started a label, and Diddy is the father of her second son, and they have twin girls. He has other children, but those are the ones that he shares with Kim. Also, Dallas Austin, I don't know who that is. Michelle Williams was brought up. She is the former member of Destiny's Child. And from what it seems, Beyonce is also friends with her. They're bandmates, but they're still in touch. They still make appearances together. Lori Ann Gibson, Don Richards, and Harvey Pierre. And I don't know who those people are, but these are names that have been brought up with the jurors. Okay. So this is pretty much the scene since I've been watching. The courthouse is just, I don't know if there's another entrance. I'm sure there's another entrance where the attorneys, the jurors are anonymous, so they're not going to identify any of the jurors' names for their privacy. Oh, someone says, I was the first jury pool for the Menendez brothers trial in the 90s. I wasn't picked, but had to sit there for 2 weeks. Yeah, I know of a lot of stories of people being, they have to have a certain number of backup jurors. I think they're looking for 10 backup jurors, like a decent amount. I'll put some sketches up of Diddy. So these are from a previous appearance. So his gray is coming through. Here, this is him with one of his attorneys. I think the guy standing is Mark Agnifilo. That's his main attorney. He's been on board, I think, from the beginning. And this is when he was wearing his, I guess, jail uniform. It was a khaki, maybe jumpsuit or something like that. And this is from the same day. And then these are from today. So that's him in the black. He's able to wear regular clothes now. It looks like he has more gray. So his like facial hair and his hair on his head looks almost completely gray. And he's also wearing glasses, I heard, but he can wear normal clothes. So there are 4 women who are victims that will be testifying on the behalf of the feds. And it's only been confirmed that Cassie Ventura is the first victim. And there's some talk about who the other 3 are, but we don't know for sure. And I think 2 of the 4 are self-identifying with their names, and 2 are going to remain anonymous. Okay. And from what I heard in the pre-trial hearing, what I heard, and this is kind of confirmed by people that have talked about what happened, the U.S. Marshal checked under the table and under the chair before Diddy sat down. So they are certainly watching out for possibly an assassination attempt or something like that. There were a lot of people saying they didn't think he would survive even till trial. But then again, this is a long trial. We're gonna see at least another 8 weeks of this trial, possibly longer. I'm gonna take this down. PDEW, he looks aged. Yeah, I think being locked up certainly ages you. And not being able to take care of himself the way he probably has been, dyeing his hair and, whatever he's been doing to kind of stay young. He's not able to do that. And he's just another rumor. He's really starting to lose it being locked up for this long. And that makes sense. Someone that's used to being able to get anything they wanted at any time now has nothing. They can't even make a phone call when they want. They can't even eat food that they like. And I also heard Diddy's lost a lot of weight. I don't know if he's afraid of what's in the food or he simply doesn't want to eat the food. But if I were him, I'd be worried about what's in the food. He is at the same jail as Epstein was. So he's been held at the same, I don't think it's the same room, but the same, they call it the shoe. And he is, I think, in his own cell. So he must be getting very, very lonely. I'm surprised he's still alive. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that don't want this trial to happen because they don't want to get dragged into this. The devil is deceiving so many people. Yes. Okay. So, Jeni, oh, is that her? Yay. Hi, Jeni.
There. Hi, Tracy.
We can hear you. Welcome. So everyone.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
hold on.
Okay, I'll introduce you while you're doing that. So this is Jeni. She lives on Maui. So she's been digging up a lot of information about the Diddy case.
Man.
And about
I don't
Palatine.
think, hold on a second.
Okay.
I don't think I'll be able to hear you because of the way I have my mic set up into my phone. So like I can't hear you, but I can only use my microphone. Let me try to just unplug it.
Okay. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
You can't?
Yes. Good morning.
All right, maybe I'll message you. Should I message you?
Okay. Yeah, sure. You can message me. I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. As long as you can hear me.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah, I just took
your volume's a little low.
Yeah, I took my mic out. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you hear background noise?
No.
Okay.
And Shane, is there any way to turn up her volume? Do you know how to do that? Shane's in the background moderating.
I just have my AC on, that's why. Darn.
Yeah, I can't hear that.
Okay, then that's fine.
Yeah, I can hear what you're saying.
Awesome.
All right, so I just ran down like what's happening now with the jury selection. Oh, by the way, Jeni is on Instagram and TikTok, and it's Connect the Dots with Jeni, and we have those links in the description. So that's where she's able to post what she finds. So,
yes. Thank you.
So do you want to just tell everyone what got you interested in the Diddy trial?
Sure. Aloha, everybody. I'm Jeni. I live here in Maui. So I actually lived here. I'm born and raised here, and I lived here. I was here when the wildfires happened. And I remember it vividly. But what got me on this journey was that I have been following the Diddy case ever since the raids. And then when the lawsuit came out that John Pelletier was named in the Ashley Farham lawsuit, it was a huge red flag for me because I already knew all the things that was coming out in the Diddy lawsuits and the Diddy criminal case. And so actually, interestingly enough, someone in law enforcement had sent me the lawsuit before it even broke out in the news. And they had asked me to verify if it was accurate, which I was surprised by because I'm not in law enforcement. So I actually just dropped a link into ChatGPT and it verified that it was valid. And so that got me interested. So I read it. I read 87 pages. I was disgusted by it. And so Mayor Bisson had called the police commission into action to open at least an independent review and for the sake of public trust and transparency to the public. And so I, on my own accord, had been reading the lawsuit to my followers on Instagram because I knew that people weren't going to read it because it's long. People are very, they want things quick. And so I was reading it and I had a lot of people, a lot of feedback. And so after I had read it, with that, I was also letting people know that March 19th is when the police commission meeting was going to happen. And so I had given people information on how they could submit their testimony, their written testimonies. However, today, now I know that more than likely, Stacy doesn't actually read the written testimonies. Stacy Moniz is the chair of the Maui Police Commission. So anyways, I was very surprised when after March 19th came that the police commission did absolutely nothing, that Keola Whitaker, who is John Pelletier's lawyer, had misled and misrepresented the case to the Maui Police Commission, completely dismissed it, minimized it, made it seem as if it wasn't anything. I was surprised that the Maui Police Commission themselves weren't appalled by the lawsuit themselves, because it's a very difficult lawsuit to read in the first place. And then especially with Stacy Moniz, she's been working with Women Helping Women, which is a SA victims group here on the island for, I want to say, almost 30 years. And so even more so, I was disgusted by the fact that the chairperson on the Maui Police Commission, who has been working with SA victims for almost 30 years, sided with John Pelletier. It all just didn't make sense to me. So I felt that I had to, I would say that, Daniel, I felt that I would have to dig deeper. And so that was the start of Connected Dots with Jeni. And so far, it's been going very well. I've had a lot of credible, respected sources and informants reach out to me with information. So the things that I do share on my page, I do verify, I check, I fact check, and I corroborate stories across multiple people so that I know that I am bringing facts to my followers.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's why your channel's grown so fast. I think it's just a little over a month old, and you're probably at
35 days.
35 days, and it's like 1,400.
I think I might have hit 1,700 while I was sleeping, but like the amount of views were at our highest point. We're doing over 30,000 views a day. Yesterday, I think, was my lowest. I probably did like 15. But prior to that, they were within the 20,000 views a day. So it just goes to show that the community, which in Hawaiian we call it the lahui. The lahui is like the community of us. The lahui is interested. They want to know. And that's why it's growing so quickly.
Okay. Also, something that we discussed that I wanted you to share with my audience. So one of the, I guess, excuses that Pelletier had was that I haven't been served. This is just a nothing burger. Share the information you found out about why he hasn't been served yet.
He hasn't been served because there's a filing error, essentially. So Ariel Mitchell, who is the lawyer representing Ashley Parham, she is from Florida. And so she had to get something called a pro hoc vice, which is basically like a special, she had to be, have somebody back her basically so she could practice law in California. So in the state of California, they only allow 3 summons. Now the 3 summons is what gets served to the defendants. In the state of Florida, they have an unlimited amount of summons that can be issued. And so she submitted 18 summons to the court on March 14th, 2025, March 13th, 2025. And on March 14th, the judge sent an error back that she needed to either compile all 18 people onto one summons or split them up amongst 3 summons. And that's just a clerical rule that California has, which is that they want to have less paper waste. And that's why they do 3 summons. And so, as far as I didn't check this morning, I checked last week, we're still there. However, once Ashley Parham amended the lawsuit, which was on March 7th, it extended the amount of time to serve to 90 days. So now we officially have until like June 7th to serve.
Okay, so he definitely will be getting served. He just hasn't been served yet.
Yes.
And do you think he's going to be asked to, like, he's probably going to have to go and give a statement in California?
Are you asking about Pelletier?
Yes.
To be honest, I think that's so far down the road. I would foresee that he would have a lawyer speak for him. He says that after the March 19th meeting, he said that they would open their own investigation. Keola Whitaker said that. If things progressed, and that they would actually file a motion against Ashley Parham for basically wrongfully accusing him. I do think there's a ways to go. So I personally wouldn't try to say what would happen in the future quite yet.
So, because they're going to finish the federal case first, and then a
lot of it relies upon the federal case. Yeah.
Okay, and now that's going to be at least until, I guess, July. Well into the summer.
Yeah, at least until July. I want to say they're forecasting 8 to 10 weeks at least, and it's not starting until May 12th. So yeah, I think it'll be a while. So there's 2 things that needs to be done in the Ashley Parham case. One is Ariel Mitchell needs to file something for the John and Jane Does, which is requesting that they remain anonymous. That does still need to be submitted, and then also to resubmit the summons. So I would like to see that done on the docket, and kind of once that's done, then the judge can respond. So nothing can really happen until Ariel Mitchell does fix the paperwork and resubmit that. Fortunately, she still does have time. At this point, she has almost a month, so I'm not too sure what the holdup is, because that was in March 14th. So anything could happen in all reality, but I think that's why this Diddy case is really, really huge impact as to what is going to happen in the future.
Right, because he could be mentioned somewhere in this federal trial.
No, we don't know what kind of evidence they have. I'm excited to see what kind of evidence they have.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, they have really, really good, solid, video footage and all that. It'll be interesting to see how they present some of that, because I know a lot of it is very explicit. I did hear one of the attorneys saying that they might have like a personal device to see these videos, but yeah.
So the jurors, you mean?
Yeah, the jurors would have to see it without it being
displayed to the whole court. Yeah. A lot of his lawsuits are very graphic in nature.
Right.
So it'd be understandable. And from what I understand, right, the raids were specifically to get the surveillance tapes in his house.
And they have a ton, from what I hear.
I know.
Yeah. So also some information that I've collected is that these federal cases, they're almost never acquitted. They have less than a 1% acquittal rate. Yes. So he's almost, very, very, very likely going to be found guilty on at least some of the charges. So like trafficking, arson, forced labor. So there are a lot. RICO.
And the RICO is the big one. The RICO is the big one.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's the part that Pelletier would be affiliated with, because RICO is referring to the entire crime organization, which, from what the civil suit says, Pelletier was a part of the operation to help make, I guess, victims shut up. He paid people off, made sure they didn't open an investigation with the police. So that's that's really serious.
Very.
But we
Absolutely.
will we will see what names come up. I mean, there's got to be tons of people that
You
are going to
know,
get named.
I'm sorry. I am interested because we don't know who victims 2, 3, 4, and potentially 5, I believe. We don't know who they are, and so I am interested to see who the victims are. I had wondered if that's why Ashley Parham's case hadn't really moved any further, is because I wondered if she was one of the victims. I don't.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't know because we don't really know the evidence that she had, right? Um,
yeah,
so I am interested to see how this plays
yeah.
out.
I never thought about that. She could be one of the victims because
That's
she
why I wondered
certainly
if
is.
there's a standstill, if that's why there is a standstill in that case.
That would be major if she is one
I
of the
know that
three.
would be major.
And
That would.
she might be the one that's self-identifying. They said that one of
No,
them
you're
didn't
right.
say. They said there is another victim that has decided to self-identify,
I
but
think it's
they
victim
didn't say.
3. Victim 3 had decided to, yes, use her real name. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess as the trial goes on, we'll find out. Hopefully, um,
Yes.
whoever does self-identify. And I am interested to know how how all these people were named in this lawsuit because it's a lot of people. But I guess that would be a question for, Ariel Mitchell or
Yeah. You know,
Ashley.
I had reached out to Ariel Mitchell on March 19th after the police commission came back with saying that they weren't unanimously 7-0 that they weren't going to do anything, which
Hmm.
I was so surprised by. I did send her an email asking if they're letting them know about the verdict and asking if they're going to proceed. I never received a response, which I wasn't really surprised by, but it would have been nice to have received one. So I really have no idea where it does stand.
Yeah, they probably used like photographs and things like that to help her pin down like who these people were.
Yeah,
Or maybe there is some kind of footage of some of these things. I'm not sure.
absolutely. There very well might be footage. I think that when I was reading the lawsuit, I was reading it off of the link online, and I believe that they were actively investigating it, and that's how they were able to identify all these different people. And I assume it's through interviewing her,
Oh,
questioning,
right.
and then kind of like jogging her memory, and that's how they're able to do it. But when I was reading the lawsuit on my Instagram page, I had to go back to reprint a page, and I had seen that they had made a change in the lawsuit, and that was in regards to Brandy Cloninger. They had added on the bottom a notation that she was a registered nurse, and they had added her registered nurse number, ID number. So that's when I was like, oh, they're actively investigating this and they're
Right.
updating this complaint and lawsuit. So that gave me hope, that it wasn't just at a standstill, that it was actively being investigated.
Right, because he was added later. Like Ashley Parham put a lawsuit forward, and then it was amended, and it
Yeah.
added more of the names because I think they investigated and they found the identities of some of the co-conspirators.
Yes. So
Right.
that's my assumption because October 14, 2024 is when she initially submitted this complaint, this lawsuit. And then I believe that at that time, that's when they started really actively. I believe they vetted her. You have to vet them to some degree. That's what I think people don't understand. I think that when they're actually going to take this case, these lawyers, and they're going to go ahead and file the lawsuit, there's a process that they have to follow of vetting. They're not just going to take any little bit and try to go after them, so they did that,
Right.
and then they filed it, and then from there they were investigating, because when it was amended on March 7th, that's when they had also added the John and Jane Doe into
Oh,
the
okay.
lawsuit. And well, John and Jane Doe was not a part of it in October.
Oh, okay. They were amended later.
Yes. Yeah. So that's
Interesting.
why they were like actively investigating. And I think they just kept adding and adding and adding to it.
Okay. I'm going to put just a little bit of the court. Oh, really? Nothing's going on.
I know.
Oh, really?
Nothing. I mean, in all reality, I
Are they
didn't
closed?
expect this. No, just people kind of go in and out. I was watching it today too. Can you pull up pictures, Tracy?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah. I
pull
have
them? Okay. Did you show them the pictures of Diddy and?
From today. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
This
good.
one, Jeni sent this to me. So
Yeah.
that is Diddy. He looks different there, but I
He's
guess that's
well.
as
It's
good
old. You
as.
can tell he used to color his hair black,
Yeah.
and now it's all
Well,
grown out.
here's the other one. Oh, I didn't have time to put the info about the jurors, but I can read that
Oh yeah.
here. They do have information about the jurors. So one juror was dismissed.
Mhm.
Diddy asked for a bathroom break, telling the judge that, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, I'm nervous today,"
Oh.
which
Oh, I
he
see that.
should be nervous. And he's really got to be humble here and,
Yeah.
do his best to appeal to the judge and the jurors. So I think that's his way of seeming humble because till now he hasn't had to. Okay, one prospective juror described a still image she saw from the video as damning evidence. That woman was rejected from consideration. And jurors are identified by numbers. Juror 2 identified himself as being a licensed massage therapist. And we have a massage therapist in our chat right now. He said his sister was in a domestic abuse situation with her ex husband and that he first heard about the Diddy case on WNBC radio. So they're looking for people that aren't familiar with this case, but I don't think that is possible.
Yeah.
In New York, that's where Diddy's been. He's well known, and this case was so highly publicized. So I think everyone's going to have already some kind of opinion on him and the case. Um, and something that I watched a little bit. TMZ did a mock jury, so they found
Oh.
their own people
Oh.
and presented the evidence that they had. They didn't. I think they did like a full-on documentary about it, but what I know Harvey Levin was saying is that some of the jurors had a hard time understanding racketeering or RICO
Oh.
because there has to be some sort of benefit or profit. And they said some of the jurors, they couldn't understand that part of it. And, we're talking about people that could be very young, that have not experienced a lot and just are very naive to things, especially if they
So
grew up after Diddy kind of had his rise.
right. So they might not. You're seeing that the jury potentially cannot understand the capacity or the grand scope of what RICO really means. Gotcha.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
I could see that because I only know it because I've researched it.
right. But hopefully they pick people that, do kind of understand these things. But I would say the defense is trying to pick people who may not understand certain things that are going to,
Mm,
I
yeah.
don't know. I mean, they say people decide on their emotion.
Mhm.
They have like an emotional decision. And when I was in college, I took law classes. I was like pre-law for a little bit, but
Awesome.
they say that the juror, after the opening statement, already has their decision. Maybe it will
Wow.
change
That's good.
throughout, but really what they're going on is what they think of the defendant, what they see, and how they feel about that person is how they decide. It depends on the person, but
Right.
it's usually a lot of emotions and not always the evidence like
Not
it
fact
should
based.
be. Yeah.
I feel like they're gonna see some pretty damning evidence. I feel like the videos are. I don't know what's on the videos, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna see some pretty disgusting things.
Mhm.
That's just hard for any human to watch.
Mhm.
We shall see how that goes. I do think, kind of going back to his hair color, I do think that was intentional, um, to keep him looking gray, to
Mhm.
give him the illusion that he's an older man,
Oh.
to kind of have pity on him.
Mhm.
Um, because prior, he would never be caught with gray hair. He was always very like clean cut. Granted, yeah, he is in prison, but I do think
Mhm.
all of it plays a role. All of it is to make him look like your grandpa that lives right down the road from you, very humanized,
Right.
to really humanize him.
Yeah.
We'll see what the evidence is.
And then Harvey Weinstein, he came in on I think like a walker. Remember, like all of a
Oh
sudden he looks
yes,
so
no,
much older.
yes,
Oh, poor
decrepit.
old man.
Yes,
Yeah. So I think that
absolutely.
is one of their
Factor.
techniques.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if you had heard, but um, Diddy had hired a new lawyer who is colored from, I think, the Bronx, and he was
Oh.
looking to also hire. This was on, I want to say, Saturday or Sunday, and then he was looking to hire a female colored woman to kind of add the race card a little bit to the, they play on a lot of emotions, like you were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they can kind of create that illusion of, like, because supposedly the prosecutors are all white women.
Okay.
And so, if there's like all white women and then there's black, then they can kind of play the race card to confuse the public, to confuse the jurors,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And I know you pointed out that Cassie is very pregnant. So
Yeah.
I hope she does make it to
I
testify if
thought the
she's really
same
close to her
thing.
due date.
Yeah.
But maybe they can, I'm not sure how they would handle it if she's like about to give birth. But I think that will kind of bring on sympathy for her for sure. And that video of her getting kicked and dragged, and that is kind of, I think for a lot of people, that would be like case closed. He definitely did all these things. Yeah. But it'll be interesting how they decide. Oh, I think the insanity thing, is that still kind of what they're going with? That he
Yeah,
was too insane?
that's his defense, that he took drugs, voluntarily took drugs as well while these victims were drugged, and so he was insane, and he wasn't of the right mind, so he didn't have the intention of doing all the things that he did. So that's their whole motive behind using insanity, is to prove the intention, because that's kind of what the charges are, that he had intended, he had planned, premeditated, and so he's claiming insanity because he wasn't of his right mind and he didn't plan anything.
It wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't believe that for a second. I think he knew exactly what he was doing for this. I mean, 20 something years.
Yeah.
How could you say that you didn't intend for all those things to happen?
You know what I think is actually going to be really huge that I would like to see in some way is KK, Christina Coram.
I think she is going to be put on.
She's supposed to. And so that I think is going to be really interesting, because she was his chief of staff. She was his right hand man. And so for 15 years. So if anybody knows everything for sure, it's definitely her. And what I've heard or read is that to save herself, she is supplying evidence and information to the feds.
Yeah, I think she probably worked out a deal to not go to prison, because she's probably going to be charged too.
Yeah.
Because she's, they call her the Ghislaine to Diddy.
And so, yeah, absolutely.
And Ghislaine's behind bars, but also Epstein didn't survive. I have a couple of other things. I have a friend who I worked with in my previous career who does business with a lot of the high profile rappers. And I talked to him last week just to get his opinion of what he thinks about these charges. And he made it clear, like, I don't know Diddy, but I was familiar with the culture and what has been going on. And he said that, like, barbershop talk, what that is like. Yes. He says that people understood that, people knew he was a bad guy, and that he was screwing a lot of people over business-wise, and that he did go both ways. That was kind of known for a while. He was a fan of both sides. But the how bad it was, he says that he was surprised at just how bad these charges were. And I think a lot of us were like really hard. I mean, still to this day, the fact that he did all these things. Also, his father, Melvin Combs, he supposedly died in a drug deal. He was a drug dealer in New York. And there is a lot of talk that he was an informant for the feds.
Yeah.
And that maybe he was taken out. It wasn't a drug deal gone bad. But he did say that this is kind of being handed down by the generations. So Diddy didn't start this as the first generation. He was kind of put into this type of lifestyle. His dad was a criminal.
Right.
And some people say Puffy's an informant. Maybe he is, but then he would, I don't know if he would survive this long if he were an informant.
Yeah.
But
I don't foresee him being I mean, maybe at some point, but I don't think he'd be in the situation he's in if he was an informant.
mm-hmm.
You know? Yeah. Did you see that Murad had posted about how when Diddy was in high school at this
The Catholic
school? Yeah. And there's a big scandal that teachers or administration was SAing the kids at that school, and that potentially Diddy was a victim of SA as well.
He very well might have been.
That kind of made sense when I was listening to that.
Yeah, there's also talk that his mom was also doing tricks when they were younger. She was like a single mom. And then so there's one side that says, oh, she just worked really hard as a teacher and made it work for Diddy and his sister. And then there's another side saying that she worked jobs, one of them being she turned tricks at her house where Diddy was.
Yeah. That was in a documentary I had watched too.
Did they say that she was doing that stuff?
Yeah,
when he was a kid.
His childhood, how she had done that, and about Melvin he was supposedly involved with the Gambino family. I believe. So it had talked about that as well too. Sounds like he was kind of surrounded by that. And also Janice is named in a bunch of lawsuits as well too, including the Ashley Parham lawsuit.
Wasn't it crazy how he called his mom?
Yeah, it was crazy.
So I'll explain for those that didn't read the Parham complaint. During this gang SA, after they were kind of, I guess, done with the victim, she was fighting back and saying that, you did this to me. And supposedly Diddy put his mom on the phone with her to try to convince her not to say anything, just take the money and be quiet.
And the mom too, according to the lawsuit, she wasn't like, so Diddy was told her they were going to give her money and they wanted her to sign something that they were just partying together. She said, we weren't partying together. You guys arred me. And so he calls the mom, and then the mom starts yelling, and Ashley Parham starts telling the mom, and the mom starts yelling at Ashley Parham and tells her, leave my son alone, sign that, take that. And it's like, this is so bizarre. But I don't think it's far-fetched because everything he was doing was bizarre and not natural and not normal. So, I mean, and then the same thing is happening with his sons. His sons also have the same type of lawsuits against them. So it just sounds like it was a systemic thing that they all perpetuated because they were all taught it or in that world. And so to them, it's all very normal. Yeah, very normalized.
Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, very, very interesting. This case really brings up a lot of interesting dynamics, about family and about business. And, it's just still unbelievable that this was happening for so long. All right, I want to check in to see if anything's happening here. Really nothing happening. Okay. Is this really live? Okay,
yeah.
There's someone walking there. I was like, how is it so dead?
Well, one, I think because cameras can't go in, and two, I wouldn't expect that they would be. I think the process would be kind of a while, you know. So it's like, I think I had read that they're going through 50 people a day, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the judge plans to bring in 50 prospective jurors every day until a jury of 12 and 6 alternates is selected.
Okay, 6 alternates.
Yeah. And that they had originally started the screening process last week.
Okay, like a questionnaire, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see if there's anything else. I had notes that I wanted to share.
Yeah, 8:30.
I also did hear that Kim Porter's demise will be discussed,
Oh,
and Tupac's demise as well.
that, you know, that's very interesting because that is how Ashley Parham's whole thing started. I don't know if you guys know that, but this whole Ashley Parham's SA all stemmed from her saying that she didn't like Diddy because she felt Diddy had
Killed.
murdered Tupac.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally where it started from.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why there was that gunfight between Big Homie Cece and Diddy in the backyard.
Oh, was that Big Homie CC?
Yeah, so that's what's in the lawsuit, is that it was Big Homie Cece was Diddy's personal security that was there,
Mhm.
part of it. And so when Ashley Parham had come into the backyard where Diddy and all the other guys, Drewski, Odell Beckham Jr., everybody was in the back, they were smoking, and
Mhm.
he told her to sign it, take the money, and then she was saying no. Ashley Parham was saying no. And Diddy, she said she was going to report him. And Diddy said, I've gotten away with bigger things,
Mhm.
almost insinuating, or he said, like the Tupac murder. And that's when Big Homie CC got upset. And he said, wait, what? And he started questioning Diddy. And then that's when
Mhm.
Ashley Parham started to kind of like go behind him because it was almost like he was protecting her and he had a gun, right? And so he's like, what are you saying? And then Diddy's like, oh no, trying to backtrack. And then that's when the neighbor who Ashley Parham had run into, like, that's his first appearance in the lawsuit. He came up and he was like, what's the commotion?
Mhm.
And Big Homie CC turned around, aimed his gun at him. He said, mind your business, go away. And then he went back to Diddy and he was like, telling him, so did you murder Tupac? And he's like going off. And so Ashley Parham kind of saw like an in. And so she tried to get the gun. And that's when the gun went off. And then
That's when it was shot.
that's where the gun went off. And then everyone started to go. Remember, she had the knife up by her. And so Diddy started to run. I don't know if you remember this, because I had to read this part so many times because it was kind of like
Yeah.
a motion. And so Diddy ran like down a stairs or up a stairs. And then he
Downstairs,
fell.
yeah.
He
Yeah,
fell,
her.
and then she was over him and she was going to stab him. But then he turned over and he was pleading for his life with her like a victim. And it
Mhm.
just kind of shocked her because she was like, wait, she had just seen him be this strong, like aggressive man. And all of a sudden
Yeah.
he was crying like a victim. And it kind of threw her off for a second. And then that's how he was able to like get up and escape. And she kind of sliced him.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
yes,
like
it was
placed his.
actually,
Where did he cut her
well, it was
chest?
the abdomen, I believe. It was the abdomen.
Okay, yeah,
But
she
she
did
kind of
cut him
grazed
pretty
his
good.
abdomen. Yeah. Which
Okay.
is crazy. But yes, it all started with Big Homie Cece, actually. Um,
Yeah.
and that altercation in regards to Tupac. So that's interesting that you say that they're going to discuss Tupac.
Yeah, I think they probably have the evidence to pin it on him,
That's
you know.
interesting.
Yeah, and then Kim, Brittany Murphy and her husband, a lot of people are saying that he was trying to keep them quiet. And the coroner who did the autopsies for Kim, Brittany, and her husband was going to reopen the case on Kim, and he did die before he can do that of pneumonia.
It's so interesting, this whole pneumonia thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when Kim Porter died, and I remember thinking that is so unusual because she was young. She was like
Mm-hmm.
42 when she passed.
47. Yeah.
Was she 47 when she passed?
47.
Okay, I thought she was a little younger, but I remember thinking, I was like, that's really suspicious because she always seemed, um,
Well, she
I
had to
don't
have
know.
had the best doctors and
Yeah,
access to care.
yes. And then did you see? I don't remember if it was you and I talking about how that one of his victims in one of his lawsuits, or maybe I'd watched something where it said that. Oh, I was reading that. Anyways, it said that one of the victims started to get pneumonia because of the type of drugs that like was administered to her, and that she had to go and seek medical help. So it kind of tied into Kim Porter, that it's like the same thing that might have happened to Kim Porter.
Hmm. But yeah, the fact that they all had the same sickness and they're
Yeah,
so young,
yeah.
yeah, there's
Like,
just too
what can
much.
give them that? What type
Yeah,
of?
I think there is a way, and it's probably kind of like a slow process because, like,
Yeah,
supposedly she was sick for a while and she was waiting
yeah.
for a doctor to call her back. So it had been
Wow.
kind of a while she wasn't doing well. And
Oh,
because I'm thinking, why didn't she go to the hospital? She had people. Why didn't she have her doctor? Probably could have done a house call,
yeah.
given her the best care. So that is just, yeah, that doesn't make sense. So I'm glad that they're bringing up all of these things that so many people have been questioning, and
Absolutely.
maybe even the Biggie.
I
I
mean,
don't
that's
know.
what they're saying, right? That he's actually the one who had done that, planned
Yeah,
it,
because
or
he was
he.
trying to leave the label or something, and he's like, no, that's not going to happen. Yeah, so
It
the
makes
level of,
sense. All of it makes sense. Did
mhm,
you hear about Courtney Burgess, who is the gentleman? Yeah, he was.
they had
He was a
the
part of
video.
getting the indictment. Yeah, he went and
Oh,
yeah, he went and testified to the grand jury, and that he was given the videos by from Tracy Porter. And so the interview I had seen with him, he couldn't specify, because he had gone to the grand jury, and so they're asking
mhm,
questions. Basically, he said on a video that he had that they asked if there was minors, and he said yes, and
mhm,
so it was alluded that they're celebrity minors,
mhm.
potentially, like it was an older video before they became celebrities. And the interviewer asked if any of them are intoxicated, and he said yes, they're
All of them.
definitely, yeah, intoxicated. Oh wait, you
Yeah,
discussed this before. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I was, um I was wondering what happened to his testimony, but maybe he's gonna be a witness.
maybe he will be a witness, but he was part of the grand jury in getting the indictment. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he has that, I mean, I'm sure the feds have it already. So
Yeah.
there's like no way of getting out of that. When it comes to kids and they're under the influence of something where they can't control themselves, I
Yeah.
mean, like, it doesn't get any worse than that, you
Absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. That's why I think this trial is so important and is going to really set the tone, because we don't know what kind of evidence they have. And as this trial progresses, we're going to find out what kind of evidence. And I don't even think we're even going to know like how bad the evidence really is, than to visualize it. For instance, like when I read what happened to Cassie in that video versus watching the video of Cassie getting,
Mhm,
there were two completely different emotions that I felt,
mhm.
so I could only imagine being a juror or being in that courtroom as a reporter or whatnot, and just having to hear it versus seeing it. For the jurors, I guess they'll be the only ones that see it. um, I would not want to be on that jury, because personally I wouldn't want to actually hear all the detail. I think it's going to be pretty disgusting and hard for
Yeah,
people to hear.
it'll stick with you for the rest of your life,
Yeah,
right? Hearing
exactly.
that stuff. Like, even
Yeah.
when I was reading the complaint, I really couldn't get through it 'cause, like, I would just start feeling a little ill or
Yeah, you start feeling sick. And so when I was reading it online, I would have to take breaks and be like, "Okay, I'm done here," because it's traumatic to read. And I couldn't even imagine experiencing that. And so I
yeah.
feel bad for the jurors. I personally, I would try to get off. If I was a potential one, I would try to get off, and I wouldn't want to be a juror, actually.
Yeah, I wonder if they want to be. They think they're gonna. Oh, they are screening to say they want to make sure they're not going to pick people who are going to write a book and spill the beans later. And I
I
think there
think
might be
that's
some
really important.
clause saying that they
Yeah,
can't. They can't benefit off of it personally.
I
So,
think that's good. I personally, I think that there's going to be some who are going to lie to just to be able to be on the jury,
mhm.
who already have an intention of a guilty verdict. And then I think there's some that are like his fans that are going to want to be on too, just to kind of, be there. I think it's kind of hard to get a really 100% untainted jury
Unbiased
pool,
jury.
unbiased
Yeah.
pool. I think that's going to be really difficult. And then with a high profile case like this, I think some people are just thirsty. They like the attention and they'll want to be on it. Yeah, we'll see how this all plays out.
Yeah. I'll just check in really quick and yeah, nothing happening here. So I guess there must be another place for them to get in the courthouse because
Well, I assume that Diddy's definitely not going to go through the front door. But it was 8:30, right? Is when all of this started. So everything, if anything, we'd just be seeing people exit who could be potential jurors that got dismissed, I would think.
yeah, and they're probably done. I don't think they go past 3 or 4. I mean, maybe they have a little bit more, but
Yeah.
I know someone said that they're gonna do jury selection for 3 days, and so I think opening statements are next week,
Yeah,
but I
May
don't know
12th.
if they
May 12th is when the opening statements start. I'm
okay.
looking at one right now and it looks like they turned the cameras around. Looks like there's still press outside the courthouse. Um, they're probably waiting to see just who comes out and to try to get some type of interviews. But you know who's a good one that I love to watch is Sidebar, because they have that one woman who's a reporter who has
Mm,
access to go inside, and then it seems like she comes right to their show immediately after
yeah,
the
Jesse
trial.
Weber, right?
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah, I do like his show. And he's an attorney, so he kinda gives his legal expertise. Yeah, and I do like that woman that she comes right on and she finds information. I guess she talks to the people that come out and kinda gets the
yeah,
inside scoop.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
I'll definitely check that out.
And I like that it's factual and she was actually there. I like hearing information from people who are actually there instead of like secondhand.
Yeah. Do you think this is, like, the trial of the century since OJ? I would say this is the biggest since
I
OJ.
think it's definitely bigger than R. Kelly's. I don't
Mhm.
know about Heart. Yeah, I think it is just because of the damning evidence that's there. To be honest, I think he rivals Jeffrey Epstein, if
Mhm.
not more, because of his MO of how he did things, and because I mean, in relation to him and Jeffrey Epstein, I think his Diddy style was more sloppy in the sense that because he had this big ego, he wanted to show off, so he involved all these different people. Whereas I think Jeffrey Epstein had like a system that was a little bit more covert,
Yeah.
that only like high society could be a part of. Whereas Diddy
Mhm.
kind of included any kind of people, and so I actually think this rivals it because of his MO on how he would do things, on how he would drug them, and on how I think it's just different. And I just think it rivals Jeffrey Epstein completely. And he has a lot of victims as well too, similar to
Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein.
A lot. And
So,
also, I think what makes this even more twisted is that the different kinds of victims,
yeah,
it was basically like anyone
yes.
that he could put his power, you know, um, you know, I
Oh,
guess have power over. That was his thing. It didn't matter really what kind of person it was. And
yeah.
yeah, that's just one of those sicknesses where you have to be in control and dominating and, just basically ruining lives. I think that was something that he got off on,
Yeah,
ruining people's
I agree.
lives.
I think it was power and control and greed. Power though, I think is what he gets off on. In the Ashley Parham lawsuit, when Big Homie CC and Diddy got into the altercation, um, Diddy had made a remark to Ashley Parham about how fun she was and how he didn't know she partied like that, and then Big Homie Cece replied with, "Well, that's because you like to sleep with men." Um,
Oh, he
yeah,
said that?
yeah, he said that's because
You're into
doing men.
men.
Yeah, it's in there if you go read back on that
I
part.
missed that
So
part.
there's a lot of I've read a lot that suggests that that's actually his preference.
Oh, okay.
It's men, but he just sounds like a delinquent and a derelict, and definitely not right in the head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. All right. I know you gotta go. Oh, there's just one last time. I'll
Yeah.
see if there's anything.
Oh,
I
looks
don't
like there's
know.
some people going in. Huh, I wonder if this is a jury. I wonder how they are doing the jury pool.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they can't let them on camera, so they probably have some kind of hidden entrance. Maybe that's for another trial. I'm wondering if they lock down the courthouse so people don't sneak in and try to get footage.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I would assume they'd have heavy security for that.
Yeah. All
Wow.
right. Well, I see some comments about Stacy Moniz,
I
police
know. I had seen
commissioner.
that. I had spoken, I've had some pretty good interviews this last week. So I'm going to be putting some stuff out. But unfortunately, just yes, let me see. Hi, how are you? I know who that is. um, that's so funny. Yes. And sadly, she backs and shields John Pelletier. And a lot of it is just sadly, they just can't admit that they chose the wrong person. So they're kind of almost willing to go to the grave backing him up. And that right there is also an ego and a power trip because they're just not willing to admit that they made a mistake in choosing him. And in our reality, I know the Maui community, all we want is just somebody to take some type of accountability, and nobody has. No one has
Mm,
taken accountability, and the sad reality is like it was an unforeseen circumstance, and essentially what happened that day is there was zero leadership, and there should have been the EOC open, which is the Emergency Operations System Center, that should have been open. That is where all the heads would have been, and they would have been giving out orders and telling them, hey, do this. But sadly, the Maui Police Department, the officers that were there, um, they didn't have any communication. And so they were literally kind of left out to dry. I have confirmation that John Pelletier was at home at his house by 5 p.m. It's by a solid, very, very solid source that he was at home by 5 p.m. on the day of the fires. Now, Lahaina wildfires. I remember that day vividly. And, you know, what happened was it happened very quickly. Okay. There was no school in Lahaina that day. There was no school. Okay. It was in the morning, they had closed all the schools in Lahaina. And so they didn't handle it properly because there wasn't a leader that was giving out orders. That period is the reason why what happened happened. If there was a leader, a proper leader sitting in the EOC, he would have been alerting because HECO, which is Hawaii Electric Company, had already called them 18 times to tell them that the lines were de-energized. Actually, a very important thing that I learned this weekend that I didn't know about was that so the lines were de-energized. Basically, a bunch of power lines had fallen down, right? So HECO had shut the lines off. And that's what the stories were why the officers didn't drive down that main road was because those lines were down. But HECO had already de-energized them. So the Maui fire chief, like the fire department knew that the lines were down. The police department didn't know that the
didn't
lights were down
know.
because John Pelletier was not at the EOC, so he was not able to alert the officers. So they were operating under the idea that all these lines were de-energized. Something I learned though that I didn't know before was that the solar PV, so all the solar panels on top of these houses, they were actually sending energy back into the lines. Yeah. And so that's actually,
Oh,
they
why it
look
looked
active and they are
energized.
actually igniting things as well too, which makes perfect sense because that's how it works, right?
Because it
It
looked
goes to
like,
PV and the PV goes back into our grid, and that's how we get electricity to our home grid.
yeah,
And so it was actually going back into those lines, and that's something because they weren't told to turn off their power
everything.
source at their house in Lahaina.
Yeah. I mean, you think they would do that too,
Yeah.
with all that wind. Also, the mayor's office didn't know what was going on at
So
all.
that's why it comes all the way back down to the Pelletier, because if he was in the EOC, which he should have been, they would have, if everything would have operated the way it should have, they should have had the IT man there that would have had everything up on, would have had the TV screens, everything that showed all the GPS locations for the officers. They would have been in contact with all these officers. It's unknown as to whether even the IT was there, but it is known that Pelletier wasn't there. And so if they were there, they would have been able to alert the mayor. And I remember that day. So it's by about 3, 4, 5, we started seeing on Instagram all these videos of people who were in the fire, and we're like, what is going on? We're on this side of the island, right? We live on this side. There's a whole mountain, and then it's Lahaina. There's only one
Hmm.
road in and one road out of Lahaina, right? And so we're kind of cut off. And I have family members, my dad, my brother, my sister, their families, they all live in Lahaina. And so on this side, we start seeing all these videos, and we're like, what's going on? Of people, of fires, of people running and trying to get away from the fire. And then the next thing we know, we just see that like everything's engulfed. Now this is just people sharing their stories onto Instagram. On That's where I was seeing this stuff. And so by about, I want to say it was 6 o'clock, Mayor Bisson, they had, I don't know who it was, but had interviewed Bisson, and you
Hmm.
could tell from him, from watching him, that he had no clue that
Mm-mm.
of what had happened, because they had asked him, "Oh, how's Lahaina?" And he said, "Oh, everything's fine."
Hmm.
And I remember watching it. I was like, oh my God, this poor man, he doesn't even know what happened. And
Mm-mm.
then after that is kind of when he found out. And I felt pity for him. And for us on the other, in the meantime, we're freaking out because I'm like, I can't get into, I'm trying to call my brother, my dad, my sister-in-law. I'm trying to get in touch with everybody. Nothing. There's no communication at all. So me and my cousins on this side, we're all trying to gather information. Finally, it was, I think, at about 3 in the morning. My brother had texted us just to say that he was okay. He was with his family. He was on the Pili side. And the thing is like the fires didn't stop that day. Like there was concern for the fire. It was a really traumatic event. And the Lahaina wildfires, I'm kind of touching slowly because I am being sensitive because I live here in Maui, and I know we lived through it, and I know how people feel about it here. And it's an island, and a lot of people are related to each other. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I just have to be really sensitive on how I bring that out.
Yeah, but I understand those feelings you had when you saw the commissioners lie and try to, make Grayson look like the bad guy. I remember feeling that, and I was like, yes, I wish more people would see this and just see how bad they're treating people that are
As
coming forward. Grayson's a whistleblower, and yeah. But I know Jenny's at work, so
Yeah,
I don't want to keep you.
I need to head out.
All
But thank you
right,
so much, Tracy, for
absolutely.
me, and we'll check in later this week. Thank you to everybody who joined on. Appreciate it. Shane, I didn't see you, but if you're there, aloha, nice to meet you, and hopefully I'll see you guys again.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Have a
Jenny.
good day. Bye.
Bye. Okay, and then if you haven't yet, go to, if you have Instagram or TikTok, connect the dots with Jenny. That's where she puts all of her content, and she really does find really good information. And what's nice is she understands the community and like what people are saying and how they feel about what happened. So yeah, I really wish there was more action going on here. It just looks like people are standing around, and I don't think anyone's going to be making a statement. No attorneys. Shane, do you think there's going to be anything?
No, I really don't think there's going to be too much coming out because, as we heard, it's going to probably take about 3 days just for the jury selection itself. And in
Yeah.
the meantime, there's going to be, the last minute, like little, I guess, deals between, the defense and the prosecution. But he's already, for some reason, declined his chance at a deal. So he must think his chances are better going through court. But I really don't think he has a good chance anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to do even 1 year behind bars. I think he's just, I'm not, doing any time, whatever it takes to not. That's what he's going to go with. And the
If
offer was
so, that's
probably,
unrealistic.
yeah, the offer was probably not good. It was probably 15 to 20 if he pled guilty. And for him, that's probably just not even a consideration. Okay, so I want to wrap this up. I wish I had, some action going on at the courthouse, but if there is anything that happens or any statements made by the attorneys or, anyone that's familiar, I'll put it out in my next video, I guess. So with that, thank you guys so much for joining my very first live. Thank you. I know I didn't really keep up with a lot of these comments, but thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for keeping up with, with Maui and now what's going on with MPD and Diddy. So thank you guys so much. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye.